The hell with that. All right, would the meeting please come to order? I'd like to, if I would, and I think we need this, quickly bow your heads, so let's have a quick prayer to get started, and we'll go. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this day, for this long day, and for the work that was done. We ask that you please be with us now as we deliberate this next committee meeting. Help us to do the right things. We ask you to go with us now, lead and guide us and direct us to ask things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, the first bill we're going to have, because she has copies, all right. I'm glad you have it. Here's the original, all right. So we're going to, Jan, what is that? 797, all right. That's what I'm looking for. I'm still missing two of David and two of three. All right. Do you want to go down there? You want to set up here? All right. Good. There when they come in, I'll help. Sir, I'll see if I got somebody helping. Is there somebody that can help me out? Ask him and he can give them as they come in. All right. We're going to be hearing now. I already have some mics on. We're going to be having. We're ready to go. We're going to be listening to House Bill 797 substitute, and you should have in your hands the substitute LC 334698S. LC 334698S substitute, so you should have that. So everybody, so I'm going to have the author of the bill, Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones, if she would go down and present the bill this time. All right. Do you want to sit at the table or you? All right. Yes. All right. You go ahead. It's yours. If you would speak into the mic where we can't hear you. All right.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, man.
Representative Ash had asked that we add the word public in front of educational opportunities.
She's going over the changes. If y'all are just, everybody have the bill now. Let's go, okay?
On page 2, on line 35, I added a definition of a governing board, and it is consistent with what the state board, the definition that they are using. On page 3, lines 81 through 85, I added, let's see, Representative Brian Thomas had asked there be some language on lobbying, so I put this language. It was in current law pertaining to other organizations, so I put some language in there regarding lobbying. On page 5, on lines 141 through 145, I put language in there at the request, actually of a couple members, school boards and superintendents, that there be more notice of lotteries, make sure that the commission would have rules to make sure there was adequate notice. On lines 146 through 149, I added language, again for the same reasons, to make sure there was adequate notice to local boards of education regarding the public meetings at the commission. On lines on page 6, lines 179 through 184. This is some language I was working on, but I just didn't have it quite done last time. Seek highly qualified, properly trained teachers and other qualified personnel for such schools, provided, however, that prior to hiring each non-U.S. citizen, the school shall receive approval by the Commission and demonstrate that qualified teachers and other personnel were sought but not available in such area which warrants hiring a non-U.S. citizen unless the teacher is a foreign exchange teacher. I want to make sure that these are our Georgia residents to the degree that we can, and certainly we don't want to have jobs taken away from people who live here. Lines 185 through 189 give preference in contracting and purchasing of services and materials to businesses incorporated under the laws of this state or qualified to do business within this state and having a regularly maintained and established place of business within this state so long as such businesses are otherwise similarly situated and qualified as compared to a business from out of state. Same reason for putting that in here. I want Georgia businesses, when they contract with them, particularly for things like, any food service or whatever they might utilize. I put new restrictions on the members of the governing board, and most of this is, when I look at it from 4 years ago, what we debated. These are new, more restrictions from what we passed 4 years ago. The members of the governing board shall meet the following qualifications. They have to be a U.S. citizen, a resident of Georgia, and they cannot be an employee of the state charter school. The language on lines 195 through lines 214 are restrictions that are in current law that pertain to local school boards of education. And so Betsy Harrington took that language and added it here to further reduce the chance of conflicts of interest. Lines 215 through 217, back in 881, 4 years ago, we required that the commission provide training. I've now taken it one step further. That language is still in this bill, but the members of the governing board for each state charter school shall participate in the annual training to make sure that we close that loophole. On page 8, section 20-2-2089, I'm going to ask Representative Dudgeon if you will help me with this. We worked on this. We actually didn't finish it until today. There was one legitimate concern expressed, was that we needed to treat virtuals differently. But what further complicates it is, what may be a virtual school today may not look like a virtual school tomorrow. There are, and Representative Dudgeon's talked about this, that some local school boards are going to this, where perhaps a student will take classes virtually a couple days a week, might be their senior year, then they go to a bricks and mortar for the rest of the week. So you want to allow for flexibility in terms of how you fund. So would you like to, why don't you kind of go through it a little bit? I will say, just to start with, that this funding overall, in terms of overall cost to the state, would be less than the funding in the previous version, because the previous version didn't reduce it significantly for, say, an all virtual school. We have talked with Scott Austinson, and this, if you calculated this for the current schools that the state has approved, the overall funding would be less than the funding they are receiving today in total. So that's just to sort of frame it for you before Mike Dudgeon goes through it with you.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. I'll be glad to try to help talk to the funding. There's a few different parts of the funding formula. The first one, the big one, is QBE. These are public school students in a public charter school, so they're going to get the same QBE grants and formula allocations that any other school would get. And then there's two other components to the funding formula, because we're trying to approximate some funding that's very modest. We know we're not going to try to do the Cadillac funding program, but there's still public school students, so we wanted to come up with a modest funding that was still adequate. So for the fact that these charter schools do not have access to local property tax, we went in with Section B and trying to approximate that level of funding for not the average school, but for the lowest 3% of systems in the state when you rank them by equalization, and that's System B. So that complicated language is basically around trying to approximate the level of funding that you would get in one of those poor school systems. So again, we're being very modest here in our requirements. Section C is also making up for the fact that the public school charter student does not have access to any of the regular capital funding that the other regular public schools do. So basically, we're going to take the average capital revenue and divide it out by the FTE, so the average amount available in the state, and make that available. But as the Pro Tem said, there's actually some exceptions to that, and that's in Section 2 there, starting on the top of page 9, saying that basically if you're a virtual school, we recognize the cost of virtual instruction is lower, and therefore the extra money that's being provided beyond QB to be at that modest level is even more modest for a virtual school. So basically saying a virtual school only gets half of that amount. That's in Section A, line 272 to 276. with the commission giving the authority to increase that if perhaps only a little bit of the charter school was virtual and a part of it was regular, as the pro tem said. We're moving, guys, over the next few years towards more and more model of blended education where we see some virtual and some traditional. And the same thing there in section B, line 277, says that capital style money is not applicable to virtual schools. Basically, if they don't have a bricks and mortar facility, then the commission would allow them to reduce that fund so they don't need the capital area. But I want to re-emphasize a point from the pro tem. When you add all this up in the end of the day, and I know that still running numbers at the DOE, it's still well less than the current level of funding under 881. And so this is, from a funding point of view, but it is adequate and it is modest. And again, we're reflecting approximately what those lowest 3% of school systems are able to do for the kids. But we still have to fund at the level, because they're public school children and they need to have the appropriate level of funding.
Thank you. And then the final change from the previous version is on line 311. Funding for, on page 10, funding for state charter schools pursuant to this code section shall be subject to appropriations by the General Assembly, and such schools shall be treated consistently with all other public schools in the state pursuant to the respective statutory funding formulas and grants. That is the extent of the changes. I know I'd be happy to take questions.
All right, are there any questions? Anybody have a question? All right, 27, that's blinking. Who is that? That's a mistake? Oh, I'm sorry, okay. You're back. Do I have any questions? All right, 24, that is, who is that? Representative Dixon. All right, you're on.
And I don't really know the answer to this one, so it's not what you might think. Transportation, if there is a system that does not provide transportation, do they receive any transportation funding? They don't, I don't think, because it's based on the bus routes.
Meaning, like, I think there is one system. I don't know. The answer.
In other words, if a charter school is not going to provide transportation, are we going to dilute the transportation funds that are going to other systems in order to fund them with transportation costs?
Do you know, Betsy, if a school system, is it just embedded in the QBE and in the grants? Do they receive it?
I don't know. We addressed that on 263, where it would be a proportional share of transportation grants. So,
Do you know, Scott?
Yes, ma'am. I can speak hypothetically to my understanding of the bill. Firstly, Representative Dixon, the answer is that your question of the transportation formula, whether that would be diluted by this bill, as I understand it's currently written, answer is no. The purpose of this supplemental appropriation that would be provided to the commission charter schools would be to give them a certain amount of money in lieu of transportation dollars. So the transportation dollars that are going to the K-12 schools will continue to go to the K-12 schools. What we are working on in the numbers that we're working through is just trying to provide some numbers context. We are simply taking an average of what the statewide transportation amount would be, and that's what we're projecting forward for this calculation. So the first answer is no. A school that does not provide transportation under the old commission charter model, they would not have gotten transportation funded. They did not provide transportation.
I think his question is if the school system does not offer transportation.
Yes, if the school system does not offer it, they don't receive it. We only have two in the state that don't. They are city school systems, to my knowledge. It's two,
Right.
and they don't provide transportation.
And if they do offer transportation, is it allocated on a per student basis, on a full?
No, it's based on miles. It's based on a map that projects what the need is that's done by the department.
When we did this, what we were looking at was the lowest 3% of funding,
Mm-hmm.
total funding for school systems. So that would include that. They may not offer transportation, but considering how modest their funding is, they have other needs that they have to offer. And I also will say that some of them do offer vans. I mean, they try to be more accessible. Some of them offer tokens for public transportation. So, I mean, I think they try to do what they can.
Also, Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I'd like to offer an amendment.
All right. Let's see if there's any other questions. I have 17. Representative Morgan, you have a question?
I'll waive, Mr. Chairman.
Original. Pardon?
I'll waive.
You waive. All right. Any other questions? Any other questions from the committee or comments? Any other questions? I don't do it. Not this time. Any other questions or comments? All right. All right. I have a. Representative Dixon, you have an amendment. All right. Question. All right.
First, let's put it in the form of
But
a
I can't
question.
do the amendment yet, so do your question.
Yeah, because I had talked to her about what I was thinking about amending, and after talking with my lawyer here, want to change it a little bit. On page 3, on line 93, where the state board may overrule,
Where are you?
on page 3, line 93,
All right.
what I'm thinking about is the state board will review something that says the state board will review all approvals and renewals and may overrule. It's just adding it in so that there is an automatic review of that approval. Because otherwise there's no trigger to get the state board to look at it.
What they've done historically, or what they did with 881, is the charter subcommittee. I mean, we left it up to state rules and regs. The state charter subcommittee of the State Board of Education, in fact, ruled they reviewed every single one at their regular meetings. Initially, they spent a lot of time reviewing them, but after a while, when they saw how thorough the commission was and so few approvals, they didn't spend quite as much time. But it was been my experience that they reviewed every single one.
So it wouldn't be a burden on them if they were already doing it, just because I'm not talking
Right.
review every application, just
Right.
those that resulted
You just want to
in
add that they
approval.
review and make sure that they're looking at every one.
Right.
Perhaps.
What?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have other comments or questions?
Okay.
Other comments or questions? All right. If not, I will entertain a motion. Then we can go from there. I have a motion on the floor to do pass. Do I hear a second? I have a second. Now, any comments or questions? All right. Representative Dixon, 24.
Okay, I would propose that on line 93,
Betsy, you here? Okay.
that it would read, the State Board of Education shall review and may overrule. Just adds the words shall review and.
All right,
Shall review and.
All right, so you're saying, Betsy, did you get that? So would you please read us what the proposed amendment is?
All right, on line 93, that sentence would read, the State Board of Education shall review and may overrule the approval or renewal of the state charter school. The rest of it's the same.
All right. To the author, you object?
I do not.
She does not object, so in that case, it's accepted. All right. You now have the House bill before you with a motion do pass 797, substitute LC 334698S. I have a motion and a second to, all right, now we have it amended, the amendment was accepted, so now do I have a motion that we accept it as amended?
So moved.
I have the move to accept it as amended. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, aye. Raise your hand if I can get a vote. Record the noes. All right, we got one no, okay? Two. Well, right, two noes. You got them? Courtney, y'all got the votes, okay? Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, now let's move, if we would, to, we have, what's your number, Tom? What's your bill number?
1178.
We now have House Bill 1178. That's in your folder. I hope it's all in there. Let's see. The 1178. Let's find it. It is. Okay, you want to come down to the table? All right.
1178 does really a fairly simple thing. You know that in the past we've had some difficulty after we have passed a piece of legislation such as National Board Certified Teachers or the math and science teacher supplements, that a few years down the road suddenly the cost is tremendously greater than what we anticipated. And all that this bill does is say that when there is a physical note put out for a bill of that nature, that the physical note shall include a 10-year projection of the cost of such new program or funding category, so that we have a better idea when we're voting on a bill what the anticipated or possible future costs of that program are going to be. I think we've passed a few things that we might have treated differently if we'd seen that.
Okay. If you look, that's on line 32, page 2. Is that correct?
Correct. All the new language is on.
It says the physical note request for a bill having a 10-year projection. Any questions? Any questions? All right, 18. That is, all right, Representative Dudgeons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is it's code section 28. In other words, is this education or all fiscal notes? In other words,
it's supposed to be just education notes.
Okay. Oh, your language says Department of Education. Never mind. Sorry about that.
So, pardon that. What does it say?
I'm good.
You okay? You good? It's okay? Okay. Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion to move forward. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. It is unanimous. You move into, and well, you'll know this, we are down, but everything is moving on the general calendar, Robin said, so it'll be there Monday, so you go ahead and proceed. Courtney will drop all the paperwork Monday, so everything's proceeding on the general calendar, since this is the crossover day. So you can go in and talk to, I don't know if I'd go tomorrow, but you can go Monday to Roots. All right?
You want me to make a motion to adjourn from?
No, sir, because I got one more. Not right yet. All right? Now we're calling a House Bill
651.
651, and Courtney, do you have that? You have that to hand out? 651. And you notice on the agenda it says other bills as added by the chair, and I've been asked to add this one, so this had a request for this one. You passing them out now, okay? All right, Representative Maxwell.
Better late than never, Mr. Chairman.
All right, you are turned on. That may be a mistake. At this late hour. Okay, Representative Maxwell.
Well,
Does everyone have a copy? And let's be sure everybody has their copy, all right? Just 1 second. We weren't sure since this was just requested, so that's why we had to have him run. Okay.
If we had Chairman Dixon's bill already in law, we may not have to be looking at this bill. This piece of legislation here is just taking out 4 lines in section 20-2-161. This is the amount that's earned by charter systems, the extra QBE, the amount that we give them based on their full-time equivalent students in each school with a charter system. In FY12, we put in originally about $1.7 million to pay to the charter system grant. The total budget amount in 12 was $3.5 million, but we added in, I believe, in the amended budget another 2.9, so we paid about $7.4 million into the charter grant systems. In 12, I don't have all the numbers of what it may be in 13, but there are currently about 72,645 full-time equivalent students. That's in charter systems, not charter schools. And as these other systems convert over, this number is going to get, I'm afraid, untenable for the budget department to try to come up with these numbers. So we're asking for this to be stricken out of the language.
So basically what this is doing, as you said, is when a school applied for a charter system, they got $100 per child. Is that correct?
That was originally intended. I think it's working out closer to about, as the cuts were made, about $87 per FTE.
All right, and then what this does, this eliminates that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
All right. For charter, no, that's charter systems, all right?
Charter systems.
Any questions from the committee? Number 11, that's Representative Ash.
Thank you, Representative Maxwell. Does it eliminate it for the charter systems that have been doing it and getting it, or for new ones?
This is for all of them, the way I've got it worded now. If we get it to the Senate, there's some changes that they're looking at.
So that a charter system that has been built on the knowledge that this $87 comes, like City of Decatur, will lose that funding?
Yes, ma'am. I had a system call me probably in November this year. The assistant superintendent came to see me, and he was wondering what the check was. They got about $348,000 this year, and they had converted to a charter system and didn't know what the money was for, and came to me and asked about it and said, "Oh, are we going to get that money next year?" And I said, "Not if I have a say in it." So I said, "Don't count on it," because we'd already dropped the bill at the end of last session. Some of these systems converted and didn't even realize the money was there. There's going to be some issues with it. There's going to be some issues with it.
So there will be some discussion about grandparenting systems that have been
Yes, ma'am.
accustomed to this money?
Yes, ma'am.
Where, you say that again, ask that question.
Grandfathering in, grandparenting in.
Yeah.
There'll be some discussions on the other side. I'm trying to get this to the Senate for them to work with it. Yes, ma'am.
Other questions? Other questions? Other questions or comments? You ready? I have a motion to pass. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed? All right, it is passed. All right, now we have, listen to this very carefully, we have 2 or 3 bills to be assigned, and this is important because now listen to me, we may call a meeting Monday. You need to know this. We may be calling a meeting Monday because we got crossover days, so listen carefully.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's 3 Senate bills.
We will not be hearing those, but that's all right.
We're not. At least not right now.
Not right. We will, but not right now.
Senate Bill 34, the Rachel Sackett Act by Senator Rogers, that is being assigned to academic innovations. Senate Bill 153 by Senator Rogers, which is professional development plans for personnel who have deficiencies. That is being assigned to academic achievement. And Senate Bill.
And what was that? Who was that by?
By Senator Rogers.
And what did it do?
And what it does is it provides professional development plans for personnel who have deficiencies.
Okay.
And finally, Senate Bill 289 is also by Senator Rogers, and this is to require students 1 course containing online learning, and that is being assigned to academic achievement.
All right.
And those are the 3 bills.
I want to ask a question to State Department. They're here, and maybe they can help me out. I read an article in the paper on the committee about the Rachel Sackett. This really kind of is, I don't know that we need a bill like this because the girls at Mill Creek, she goes to Gwinnett Math and Science. I mean, what is preventing Gwinnett County from allowing her to play at Mill Creek? I mean, is it the State Department or is it the High School Association? If it is, we may need to bring them to the table. I don't know that we need a law to allow a public school student in a public school to play ball or to go back and take choir. Why not? And they are IE squared. So that's what scares me. They don't have to abide by the law. So can y'all comment on that? And Betsy, help me out. I may be asking a legal opinion. Is Betsy still here? Yeah.
Chairman, I think it's the Georgia High School Association.
Well, they may need to get in the ball game. Am I right? No, I'm just asking. You think it's I didn't think so. And I see, in other words, it's not a private charter school. It's not a private school. It's a Gwinnett County's IE squared, exempted everything. And is Skip here? Anybody understands? I know he works for Georgia High School Association. Is that a high school association law? I'm just trying to find, is it a rule? I don't know. I don't know if it's a law. I'm just asking. Is it a law? Yes. Comment on it, Herb. You may know.
It's the Georgia High School Association
rule that regulates competition to only full-time students who are enrolled in the school that's
Yeah.
competing. It's to keep you from having all kinds of people
Yeah.
come in and compete on.
Well, I know, but I'm saying, like in Buford, that's a choice system.
Yep.
They can move there and immediately they're eligible.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, but they are.
Not necessarily.
Oh, not necessarily. Why? What would hold them from being eligible?
Well, if their parents don't move, if they don't make a bona fide move into the school zone, then they have to stay out.
But I thought the choice law we passed said they were immediately eligible. That's not true. It's got to lay out a year. Is that a state law or is that a high school rule? That's what I'm saying. That's not our law, though. That's a high school association rule. And that could be corrected. I mean, without a law. I'm just saying without a law. Just wait, Kathy. I know you're getting a little nervous. Just wait. I'm just...
It could be, but I'd call it a slippery slope.
Sir?
It could be, but I'd call it a slippery.
I think it's a slippery... But the thing I'm concerned about is this is a Gwinnett school, IE squared, all this flexibility we're getting ready to give. And I don't know. I'm just wondering, where we stand on that. Because if we pass this law, we're going to create a law demanding some of this stuff. All right, now I'll let you speak.
The slippery slope.
Hit your button where I can hear you.
The slippery slope, the unintended consequences, the just incredible challenge of figuring out who may play for whom and when.
Well, I know. I'm just... All I was asking, I'm just getting everything clarified. Those questions were asked me today. That's why I'm asking. The questions were asked me today from a senator. And so I'm just getting some clarification where the laws that prevent were. So there's no state law. It simply says the Georgia High School Association rule says they have to play in the school where they attend. Is that right?
If they're going to compete against to play in competitive activities, not just athletics.
Oh, I know. It's choir, it's cheerleading, everything. That's what the Georgia High School rule says. That's all I want to say. I'm just trying to be sure if there... I was asked that today, and if there was a law, and I told them I didn't know of the law, but so you clarify. Number 27, and I'll come back to you, 27.
Mr. Chairman, I just, with all due respect, I wanted to ask, didn't some legislation come forward and our committee vetted it fully, and I think we were in agreement.
We had the one here. Yeah, we had the one in here. That was last year. That was, you remember Representative Lynn Walker's bill.
Yes.
All right. Number 21, did you want to say something else? All right, number 11 again, Kathy.
I was just going to say we've been down this course before.
And all I was doing,
track.
I want the committee to know I'm not pushing the bill. I was asking for clarification. I was asked by a senator about the law. And that's why I was going to check it, so this keeps me from coming to Betsy and getting a ruling. But I didn't know of a law, but it's Georgia High School Association. I move we adjourn too. Go home. Have a good one.